In an effort to mitigate the adverse effects of climate change on Zambia's agricultural sector, AKTC initiated the CAFM project in 2019 in collaboration with the University of Hohenheim in Germany. The main purpose of the CAFM project is to demonstrate to emerging farmers the agronomic and economic benefits of mechanized conservation agriculture over conventional farming methods, so that they can reduce their losses as a result of climate change while increasing their incomes. The CAFM project is run on 27 hectares, and it is an entirely rain-fed farming system. A total of 24 plots, 12 for soybeans and 12 for maize, were marked out and assigned randomly with 3 tillage types. The tillage types are direct seeding and ripping as conservation farming methods, and burning and disking as a conventional method. Maize and soybeans are rotated every season on the 24 plots. Further, 3 plots were set up for maize, soybean and cover crop rotations to test the performance of maize and soybeans following cover crops. Before the field activities begin, soil sampling is performed to determine the soil's physical and chemical properties. This is done at the end of every season. Numerous activities take place at the onset of every season, such as plot demarcation, land clearing of tall trees and shrubs, as well as the realignment of the plot boundaries. This is followed by the burning of crop residues on the conventional plots. The burning of crop residues is a very popular practice among Zambian farmers, since it is seen as an easier way for removing crop residues, improving soil granulation, and creating a uniform surface for planting. However, the burning of the mulches makes the soils susceptible to water and wind erosion, as well as to loss of soil organic matter. The CAFM project focuses on 2 conservation tillage methods, ripping and direct seeding. Ripping ensures reduced soil disturbance before planting, while loosening the compacted layers of soil, this way favoring deep root penetration. The conventional farming method consists of disking or ploughing of plots that had been burned up front. Soybeans and maize are both planted between late November and early December, depending on the onset of the rains. A seed rate of 80 kilograms per hectare was used for all soybean plots and 25 kilograms per hectare for the maize plots. The first conservation practice is direct seeding. With this method, there is no need to disc or rip the plots before planting. The direct seeder opens the soil, delivers fertilizer, and plants the seed in one operation, thus saving time and fuel for the farmer. Now, the seeds are being planted on the ribbed furrows using a 2-row planter. The following sequences show the planting operations on the conventional plots that were burned and disked. Blockages of seed metering chutes are checked occasionally, especially on wet and loose soils. After planting, it is important to apply pre-emergent herbicides at the right proportions to eliminate infant weeds and keep them from growing. For maximum efficiency, this is performed under good agricultural practices. After only a few days, the first plants start germinating and emerging from the ground. Data is collected 2 weeks after planting to better compare the crop emergence rates and the population between the conservation and conventional tillage methods. Just after planting and germination, soil moisture meters are installed. These are 60 centimeters long, automatic solar-powered soil sensors. With the help of these soil moisture sensors, a comparison of soil water retention capacity and soil temperatures across 60 centimeters depth in the 3 tillage types can be monitored throughout the season. Besides, daily rainfall, temperature, and humidity are also recorded throughout the season. In order to monitor the development of the crops under different tillage methods, a fixed-wing drone is used to collect remotely sensed data every 2 weeks. Precision farming can provide insights into soil and crop health status and can be used to estimate crop yields. Weeds decrease yields, increase production costs, interfere with harvest, and lower the product quality. It is therefore essential to control them as the crops grow. Apart from chemical weed control, shrubs need to be removed manually. First, soybeans go through the vegetative development stages, which are categorized by the number of fully developed trifoliate leaves that are present. At 3 weeks, the 4th trifoliate leaf has unfolded. After 6 weeks, the soybean reaches the 7th trifoliate stage, containing 7 unfolded trifoliate leaves. The soil cover on the ribbed and directly planted plots continue to protect them from surface runoff and weed invasion. The second stage of soybean growth is the reproductive stage. The process starts with at least 1 flower on any node. Afterwards, it continues to the full flowering stage, when one of the 2 flowers at the top of each node opens. After that, the beginning pods appear on one of the 4 uppermost pods, then the full pod. This is followed by pods containing green seeds that fill up the pod capacity. Upon completion of seed formation, plants begin to mature and the leaves begin to fade and drop off. At full maturity, 95% of the pods have reached the full mature color. After 12 weeks, all the leaves fall off and the mature soybean continues to dry in readiness for harvesting. In maize, vegetative growth stages are identified from the leaf color that is visible at the uppermost leaf. 3 weeks after planting, the maize reaches the 4th leaf color stage. At 4 weeks, the maize enters the 5th stage. Maize continues to grow until it reaches the 9th collar stage, after which it begins to tassel at the 8th week. This is the start of the reproductive stage. The next step is the silking process. It is followed by maize blistering, and then the milk stage begins, The cobs then go through the dough and dent stages about 40 days after silking. After 12 weeks, maize starts to mature, and this continues until the grains are dry enough to be harvested. Three months after planting, when the moisture content of the soybean grain has fallen below 20%, randomly selected samples of soybean grain are collected on the plots in an effort to estimate yield accurately based on the tillage method. This is also done for maize 5 months after planting, when the grain moisture content is below 25%. The sample harvests are dried, weighed, and extrapolated to estimate the yield per hectare, and then compared with the overall harvest results. A week after the samples are taken, a combine harvests the soybeans, which are then weighed and evaluated based on the tillage methods. However, maize harvest is done manually. The cobs are pulled by hand and then shelled with a motorized maize sheller. Like the soybeans, the harvested maize is cleaned using a motorized blower. Then they are bagged and weighed. Finally, the yields are evaluated based on the different tillage methods, and then the harvest is properly stored. Here are snapshots of the results generated. We start with the ecological considerations. We begin with the rainfall. The second season was generally a wet one, with a total rainfall amount of 1076.4 millimeters compared to the first season, which was relatively dry. Next, we will have a look at the soil moisture. Throughout the growing season, the soil moisture content in conservation plots was consistently higher than in conventional plots across the soil depth of 60 centimeters. Finally, soil temperatures were lower in the conservation plots than in the conventional plots at both 15 and 45 centimeters depth. We can see from these findings that conservation tillage methods conserve soil moisture and are more resilient to drought effects. Now, talking about agronomic considerations, conservation tillage methods showed higher yields in the dry season. However, in the wet season, conventional disc-harrowed plots recorded higher yields for both maize and soybeans. When comparing the cost of labor for all operations from land clearance to harvesting, disc harrowing and ripping require high labor charges compared to direct seeding for both maize and soybean production. Time is always a constraint factor in agricultural production. In this experiment, it is evident that direct seeding saves between 33 and 46% more time compared to disc harrowing and ripping tillage. The high time use in ripping tillage is high due to the reduced tractor speed required to maintain uniform ripping depths. However, fuel usage per hectare was highest in disc harrowed plots, followed by ripping tillage plots and direct seeding plots. The goal of every farmer is to make a profit at the end of every season. During the last, wet season, The conventional tillage method produced the highest profit margins for maize, as opposed to ripping on soybeans. On the other hand, in the first, drier season, conservation plots produced higher yields and higher profitability than conventional disc harrowing. In conclusion, the conservation tillage practices and soil cover enhance water infiltration and moisture retention more than conventional tillage. Conventional tillage recorded higher yields in the second season, but conservation tillage practices are better suited to drier seasons and often record higher yields. For market-oriented emergent farmers, direct seeding is one of the cheapest and most climate-friendly tillage methods. However, to maximize the potential of mechanized conservation agriculture, using the right rippers and planters is very important, as well as getting proper training on how to handle them. The results have shown that mechanized conservation and conventional tillage methods are all profitable over the short term. However, there is need for long-term evaluation of the climate-adapted farming methods in comparison with the conventional practices.